Breasts. Article freely available on Wikipedia.com. Main article, Breasts. The breasts are two prominences located on the upper ventral region of the torso among humans and other primates. Both sexes develop breasts from the same embryological tissues. The relative size and development of the breasts is a major secondary sex distinction between females and males. There is also considerable variation in size between individuals. Permanent breast growth during puberty is caused by estrogens in conjunction with the growth hormone. Female humans are the only mammals that permanently develop breasts at puberty. All other mammals develop their mammary tissue during the latter period of pregnancy. In females, the breast serves as the mammary gland, which produces and secretes milk to feed infants. Subcutaneous fat covers and envelops a network of ducts that converge on the nipple, and these tissues give the breast its distinct size and globular shape. At the ends of the ducts are lobules, or clusters of alveoli, where milk is produced and stored in response to hormonal signals. During pregnancy, the breast responds to a complex interaction of hormones, including estrogens, progesterone, and prolactin, that mediate the completion of its development, namely lobuloalveolar maturation, in preparation of lactation and breastfeeding. Along with their major function in providing nutrition for infants, breasts can figure prominently in the perception of a woman's body and sexual attractiveness. Breasts, especially the nipples, can be an erogenous zone, and part of sexual activity. Some cultures ascribe social and sexual characteristics to female breasts, and may regard bare breasts in public as immodest or indecent. Breasts can represent fertility, femininity, or abundance. Breasts have been featured in ancient and modern sculpture, art, and photography. Etymology and terminology. The English word breast derives from the Old English word briost, breast, bosom, from Proto-Germanic *broistam, breast, from the Proto-Indo-European base *brius, to swell, to sprout. The breast spelling conforms to the Scottish and North English dialectal pronunciations. The Merriam-Webster dictionary states that Middle English breast comes from Old English briost, akin to Old High German brust, Old Irish brute belly, and Russian bryako. The first known usage of the term was before the 12th century. Breasts is often used to refer to female breasts in particular, though the stricter anatomical term refers to the same region on members of either sex. Male breasts are sometimes referred to in the singular to mean the collective upper chest area, whereas female breasts are referred to in the plural unless speaking of a specific left or right breast. A large number of colloquial terms for female breasts are used in English, ranging from fairly polite terms to vulgar or slang. Some vulgar slang expressions may be considered to be derogatory or sexist to women. Evolutionary development. Humans are the only mammals whose breasts become permanently enlarged after sexual maturity, known in humans as puberty. The reason for this evolutionary change is unknown. Several hypotheses have been put forward. A link has been proposed to processes for synthesizing the endogenous steroid hormone precursor dehydroepiandrosterone, which takes place in fat-rich regions of the body like the buttocks and breasts. These contributed to human brain development and played a part in increasing brain size. Breast enlargement may for this purpose have occurred as early as Homo ergaster, 1.7–1.4 million years ago. Other breast formation hypotheses may have then taken over as principal drivers. It has been suggested by zoologists Avishag and Amat Zahavi that the size of the human breasts can be explained by the handicap theory of sexual dimorphism. This would see the explanation for larger breasts as them being an honest display of the woman's health and ability to grow and carry them in her life. Prospective mates can then evaluate the genes of a potential mate for their ability to sustain her health even with the additional energy-demanding burden she is carrying. The zoologist Desmond Morris describes a sociobiological approach in his science book The Naked Ape. He suggests, by making comparisons with the other primates, that breasts evolved to replace swelling buttocks as a sex signal of ovulation. He notes how humans have, relatively speaking, large penises as well as large breasts. Furthermore, early humans adopted bipedalism and face-to-face coitus. He therefore suggested enlarged sexual signals helped maintain the bond between a mated male and female even though they performed different duties and therefore were separated for lengths of time. A 2001 study proposed that the rounded shape of a woman's breast evolved to prevent the sucking infant offspring from suffocating while feeding at the teat, that is, because of the human infant's small jaw, which did not project from the face to reach the nipple, they might block the nostrils against the mother's breast if it were of a flatter form. Compare with the common chimpanzee. Theoretically, as the human jaw receded into the face, the woman's body compensated with round breasts. Ashley Montague, 1965, proposed that breasts came about as an adaptation for infant feeding for a different reason, as early human ancestors adopted bipedalism and the loss of body hair. Human upright stance meant infants must be carried at the hip or shoulder instead of on the back as in the apes. This gives the infant less opportunity to find the nipple or the purchase to cling on to the mother's body hair. The mobility of the nipple on a large breast in most human females gives the infant more ability to find it, grasp it and feed. Other suggestions include simply that permanent breasts attracted mates, that pendulous breasts gave infants something to cling to, or that permanent breasts shared the function of a camel's hump, to store fat as an energy reserve. Structure. In women, the breasts overlay the pectoralis major muscles and extend on average from the level of the second rib to the level of the sixth rib in the front of the rib cage. Thus, the breasts cover much of the chest area and the chest walls. At the front of the chest, the breast tissue can extend from the clavicle collarbone to the middle of the sternum breastbone. At the sides of the chest, the breast tissue can extend into the axilla armpit and can reach as far to the back as the latissimus dorsi muscle, extending from the lower back to the humerus bone, the bone of the upper arm. As a mammary gland, the breast is composed of differing layers of tissue, predominantly two types, adipose tissue and glandular tissue, which affects the lactation functions of the breasts. The natural resonant frequency of the human breast is about 2 Hz. Morphologically, the breast is tear-shaped. The superficial tissue layer, superficial fossa, is separated from the skin by 0.5–2.5 cm of subcutaneous fat, adipose tissue. The suspensory Cooper's ligaments are fibrous tissue prolongations that radiate from the superficial fossa to the skin envelope. The female adult breast contains 14 to 18 irregular lactiferous lobes that converge at the nipple. The 2.0–4.5 mm milk ducts are immediately surrounded with dense connective tissue that support the glands. Milk exits the breast through the nipple, which is surrounded by a pigmented area of skin called the areola. The size of the areola can vary widely among women. The areola contains modified sweat glands known as Montgomery's glands. These glands secrete oily fluid that lubricate and protect the nipple during breastfeeding. Volatile compounds in these secretions may also serve as an olfactory stimulus for the newborn's appetite. The dimensions and weight of the breast vary widely among women. A small to medium-sized breast weighs 500 grams (1.1 pounds) or less, and a large breast can weigh approximately 750 to 1,000 grams (1.7 to 2.2 pounds) or more. In terms of composition, the breasts are about 80 to 90% stromal tissue, fat and connective tissue, while epithelial or glandular tissue only accounts for about 10 to 20% of the volume of the breasts. The tissue composition ratios of the breast also vary among women. Some women's breasts have a higher proportion of glandular tissue than of adipose or connective tissues. The fat to connective tissue ratio determines the density or firmness of the breast. During a woman's life, her breasts change size, shape, and weight due to hormonal changes during puberty, the menstrual cycle, pregnancy, breastfeeding, and menopause. Glandular structure. Main article: mammary gland. The breast is an apocrine gland that produces the milk used to feed an infant. The nipple of the breast is surrounded by the areola, nipple-areola complex. The areola has many sebaceous glands, and the skin color varies from pink to dark brown. The basic units of the breast are the terminal duct lobular units, TDLUs, which produce the fatty breast milk. They give the breast its offspring feeding functions as a mammary gland. They are distributed throughout the body of the breast. Approximately 2/3 of the lactiferous tissue is within 30 mm of the base of the nipple. The terminal lactiferous ducts drain the milk from TDLUs into 4 to 18 lactiferous ducts, which drain to the nipple. The milk glands to fat ratio is 2:1 in a lactating woman, and 1:1 in a non-lactating woman. In addition to the milk glands, the breast is also composed of connective tissues, collagen, elastin, white fat, and the suspensory Cooper's ligaments. Sensation in the breast is provided by the peripheral nervous system innervation by means of the front, anterior, and side lateral cutaneous branches of the 4th, 5th, and 6th intercostal nerves. The T4 nerve, thoracic spinal nerve 4, which innervates the dermatomic area, supplies sensation to the nipple areola complex. Lymphatic drainage. Approximately 75% of the lymph from the breast travels to the axillary lymph nodes on the same side of the body, while 25% of the lymph travels to the peristernal nodes beside the sternum bone. A small amount of remaining lymph travels to the other breast and to the abdominal lymph nodes. The subareolar region has a lymphatic plexus known as the subareolar plexus of Sappi. The axillary lymph nodes include the pectoral, chest, subscapular, under the scapula, and humeral, humerus bone area, lymph node groups, which drain to the central axillary lymph nodes and to the apical axillary lymph nodes. The lymphatic drainage of the breasts is especially relevant to oncology because breast cancer is common to the mammary gland, and cancer cells can metastasize, break away from a tumor and be dispersed to other parts of the body by means of the lymphatic system. Morphology. The morphologic variations in the size, shape, volume, tissue density, pectoral locale, and spacing of the breasts determine their natural shape, appearance, and position on a woman's chest. Breast size and other characteristics do not predict the fat-to-milk gland ratio or the potential for the woman to nurse an infant. The size and the shape of the breasts are influenced by normal life hormonal changes, thalarchy, menstruation, pregnancy, menopause, and medical conditions, e.g. virginal breast hypertrophy. The shape of the breasts is naturally determined by the support of the suspensory Cooper's ligaments, the underlying muscle and bone structures of the chest, and by the skin envelope. The suspensory ligaments sustain the breast from the clavicle collarbone and the clavico-pectoral fossa, collarbone and chest, by traversing and encompassing the fat and milk gland tissues. The breast is positioned, affixed to, and supported upon the chest wall, while its shape is established and maintained by the skin envelope. In most women, one breast is slightly larger than the other. More obvious and persistent asymmetry in breast size occurs in up to 25% of women. The base of each breast is attached to the chest by the deep fossa over the pectoralis major muscles. The base of the breast is semicircular, however the shape and position of the breast above the surface is variable. The space between the breast and the pectoralis major muscle, called retromammary space, gives mobility to the breast. The chest-thoracic cavity progressively slopes outwards from the thoracic inlet, atop the breastbone, and above to the lowest ribs that support the breasts. The inframammary fold IMF, where the lower portion of the breast meets the chest, is an anatomic feature created by the adherence of the breast skin and the underlying connective tissues of the chest. The IMF is the lowermost extent of the anatomic breast. Normal breast tissue has a texture that feels nodular or granular, with considerable variation from woman to woman. Breasts have been categorized into 4 general morphological groups: flat, spheric, protruded, and drooped, or small, flat, large, inward, upward, and droopy. The breast is susceptible to numerous benign and malignant conditions. The most frequent benign conditions are puerperal mastitis, fibrocystic breast changes, and mastalgia. Clinic significance. Main article: breast disease. Lactation unrelated to pregnancy is known as galactorrhea. It can be caused by certain drugs, such as antipsychotic medications, extreme physical stress, or endocrine disorders. Lactation in newborns is caused by hormones from the mother that crossed into the baby's bloodstream during pregnancy. Breast cancer. Main article: breast cancer. Breast cancer is the most common cause of cancer death among women, and it is one of the leading causes of death among women. Factors that appear to be implicated in decreasing the risk of breast cancer are regular breast examinations by health care professionals, regular mammograms, self-examination of breasts, healthy diet, exercise to decrease excess body fat, and breastfeeding. Male breasts. Both females and males develop breasts from the same embryological tissues. Anatomically, male breasts do not normally contain lobules and acini that are present in females. In rare instances, it is possible for very few lobules to be present. This makes it possible for some men to develop lobular carcinoma of the breast. Normally, males produce lower levels of estrogens and higher levels of androgens, namely testosterone, which suppress the effects of estrogens in developing excessive breast tissue. In boys and men, abnormal breast development is manifested as gynecomastia, the consequence of a biochemical imbalance between the normal levels of estrogen and testosterone in the male body. Around 70% of boys temporarily develop breast tissue during adolescence. The condition usually resolves by itself within 2 years. When male lactation occurs, it is considered a symptom of a disorder of the pituitary gland. Plastic surgery. Plastic surgery can be performed to augment or reduce the size of breasts, or to reconstruct the breast in cases of deformative disease, such as breast cancer. Breast augmentation and breast lift mastopexy procedures are done only for cosmetic reasons, whereas breast reduction is sometimes medically indicated. In cases where a woman's breasts are severely asymmetrical, surgery can be performed to either enlarge the smaller breast, reduce the size of the larger breast, or both. Breast augmentation surgery generally does not interfere with future ability to breastfeed. Breast reduction surgery more frequently leads to decreased sensation in the nipple areola complex, and to low milk supply in women who choose to breastfeed. Implants can interfere with mammography, breast X-ray images. Society and culture, general. In Christian iconography, some works of art depict women with their breasts in their hands or on a platter, signifying that they died as a martyr by having their breasts severed. One example of this is Saint Agatha of Sicily. Femin is a feminist activist group which uses topless protests as part of their campaigns against sex tourism, religious institutions, sexism, and homophobia. Femin activists have been regularly detained by police in response to their protests. There is a long history of female breasts being used by comedians as a subject for comedy fodder, e.g., British comic Benny Hill's burlesque, slapstick routines. Art history. In European prehistoric societies, sculptures of female figures with pronounced or highly exaggerated breasts were common. A typical example is the so-called Venus of Willendorf, one of many Paleolithic Venus figurines with ample hips and bosom. Artifacts such as bowls, rock carvings and sacred statues with breasts have been recorded from 15,000 BC up to late antiquity all across Europe, North Africa and the Middle East. Many female deities representing love and fertility were associated with breasts and breast milk. Figures of the Phoenician goddess Astarte were represented as pillars studded with breasts. Isis, an Egyptian goddess who represented, among many other things, ideal motherhood, was often portrayed as suckling pharaohs, thereby confirming their divine status as rulers. Even certain male deities representing regeneration and fertility were occasionally depicted with breast-like appendices, such as the river god Hapi, who was considered to be responsible for the annual overflowing of the Nile. Female breasts were also prominent in Minoan art in the form of the famous snake goddess statuettes, and a few other pieces, though most female breasts are covered. In ancient Greece there were several cults worshipping the Chorotrophos, the suckling mother, represented by goddesses such as Gaia, Hera and Artemis. The worship of deities symbolized by the female breast in Greece became less common during the first millennium. The popular adoration of female goddesses decreased significantly during the rise of the Greek city-states, a legacy which was passed on to the later Roman Empire. During the middle of the first millennium BC, Greek culture experienced a gradual change in the perception of female breasts. Women in art were covered in clothing from the neck down, including female goddesses like Athena, the patron of Athens who represented heroic endeavor. There were exceptions. Aphrodite, the goddess of love, was more frequently portrayed fully nude, though in postures that were intended to portray shyness or modesty, a portrayal that has been compared to modern pin-ups by historian Marilyn Yalom. Although nude men were depicted standing upright, most depictions of female nudity in Greek art occurred, usually with drapery near at hand and with a forward-bending, self-protecting posture. A popular legend at the time was of the Amazons, a tribe of fierce female warriors who socialized with men only for procreation and even removed one breast to become better warriors, the idea being that the right breast would interfere with the operation of a bow and arrow. The legend was a popular motif in art during Greek and Roman antiquity and served as an antithetical cautionary tale. Body image. Many women regard their breasts as important to their sexual attractiveness, as a sign of femininity that is important to their sense of self. A woman with smaller breasts may regard her breasts as less attractive. Clothing. See also, bra, list of bra designs, cleavage, breasts, toplessness, modesty, naturism, and exhibitionism. Because breasts are mostly fatty tissue, their shape can, within limits, be molded by clothing, such as foundation garments. Bras are commonly worn by about 90% of Western women, and are often worn for support. The social norm in most Western cultures is to cover breasts in public, though the extent of coverage varies depending on the social context. Some religions ascribe a special status to the female breast, either in formal teachings or through symbolism. Islam forbids free women from exposing their breasts in public. Many cultures, including Western cultures in North America, associate breasts with sexuality and tend to regard bare breasts as immodest or indecent. In some cultures, like the Himba in northern Namibia, bare-breasted women are normal. In some African cultures, for example, the thigh is regarded as highly sexualized and never exposed in public, but breast exposure is not taboo. In a few Western countries and regions, female toplessness at a beach is acceptable, although it may not be acceptable in the town center. Social attitudes and laws regarding breastfeeding in public vary widely. In many countries, breastfeeding in public is common, legally protected, and generally not regarded as an issue. However, even though the practice may be legal or socially accepted, some mothers may nevertheless be reluctant to expose a breast in public to breastfeed, due to actual or potential objections by other people, negative comments, or harassment. It is estimated that around 63% of mothers across the world have publicly breastfed. Bare-breasted women are legal and culturally acceptable at public beaches in Australia and much of Europe. Filmmaker Lena Esco made a film entitled Free the Nipple, which is about laws against female toplessness or restrictions on images of female, but not male, nipples, which Esco states is an example of sexism in society. Breast binding, also known as chest binding, is the flattening and hiding of breasts with constrictive materials such as cloth strips or purpose-built undergarments. Binders may also be used as alternatives to bras or for reasons of propriety. People who bind include women, trans men, non-binary people, and cisgender men with gynecomastia. Sexual characteristic, see also, mammary intercourse, breast fetishism, and stimulation of nipples. In some cultures, breasts play a role in human sexual activity. Breasts and especially the nipples are among the various human erogenous zones. They are sensitive to the touch as they have many nerve endings, and it is common to press or massage them with hands or orally before or during sexual activity. During sexual arousal, breast size increases, venous patterns across the breasts become more visible, and nipples. Compared to other primates, human breasts are proportionately large throughout adult females' lives. Some writers have suggested that they may have evolved as a visual signal of sexual maturity and fertility. In Patterns of Sexual Behavior, a 1951 analysis of 191 traditional cultures, the researchers noted that stimulation of the female breast by a male sexual partner seemed absent in all subhuman forms, although it is common among the members of many different human societies. Many people regard bare female breasts to be aesthetically pleasing or erotic, and they can elicit heightened sexual desires in men in many cultures. In the ancient Indian work the Kama Sutra, light scratching of the breasts with nails and biting with teeth are considered erotic. 100. Some people show a sexual interest in female breasts distinct from that of the person, which may be regarded as a breast fetish. A number of Western fashions include clothing which accentuate the breasts, such as the use of push-up bras and décolleté, plunging neckline, gowns and blouses which show cleavage. While U.S. culture prefers breasts that are youthful and upright, some cultures venerate women with drooping breasts, indicating mothering and the wisdom of experience. Research conducted at the Victoria University of Wellington showed that breasts are often the first thing men look at, and for a longer time than other body parts. The writers of the study had initially speculated that the reason for this is due to endocrinology, with larger breasts indicating higher levels of estrogen and a sign of greater fertility, but the researchers said that men may be looking more often at the breasts because they are simply aesthetically pleasing, regardless of the size. Some women report achieving an orgasm from nipple stimulation, but this is rare. Research suggests that the orgasms are genital orgasms, and may also be directly linked to the genital area of the brain. In these cases, it seems that sensation from the nipples travels to the same part of the brain as sensations from the vagina, clitoris and cervix. Nipple stimulation may trigger uterine contractions, which then produce a sensation in the genital area of the brain. Anthropomorphic geography, main article, breast-shaped hill. There are many mountains named after the breast because they resemble it in appearance, and so are objects of religious and ancestral veneration as a fertility symbol and of well-being. In Asia, there was Breast Mountain, which had a cave where the Buddhist monk Bodhidharma Dhammo spent much time in meditation. Other such breast mountains are Mount Elgin on the Uganda-Kenya border, Bean Shoshan and the Maiden Paps in Scotland, the Bundaking Susong Dalaga Maiden's Breast Mountains, in Talim Island, Philippines, the twin hills known as the Paps of Anu, Dachichanan, the Breasts of Anu, near Killarney in Ireland, the 2,086 meters high Tetica de Becares or La Tetica in the Sierra de los Filabres, Spain, Khao Nam Sao in Thailand, Cerro Las Tetas in Puerto Rico, and the breasts of Aphrodite in Mykonos, among many others. In the United States, the Teton Range is named after the French word for nipple. Measurement, main article, breast measurement. The maturation and size of the breasts can be measured by a variety of different methods. These include Tanner staging, bra cup size, breast volume, breast chest difference, the breast unit, breast hemi-circumference, and breast circumference, among other measures. See also, Medicine Portal, Human Sexuality Portal, Udder.